Hey, welcome everybody to a brand new episode of the All Things Black podcast. My name is Mr. Blackovation, and I have a very special guest with us today, and that is the founder of the Black Podcast Association, and his name is Corey Gumbs. We will be discussing some very interesting topics and finding out what Corey's been doing with the Black Podcasters Association and with some other things. So you guys stay tuned. All right, we are back. As you can see, I do have my guest online right now. He's looking right into the camera. And like I said, he is the founder of the Black Podcasters Association. But before we dive into the conversation, a couple of things I want to actually get out of the way. I am trying to develop a brand new format, and it's going to be involving a lot of other things. One of which is going to be talking about some Black news and some Black perspectives and things like that. Also mentioning a lot of Black up and coming businesses. One of which I want to talk about thoroughly. So if a lot of people don't know yet, there is a athleisure wear company that was developed by a black, used to be a Black sports figure, I believe, and his name is Landy Smith. He's the founder of Actively Black. If you guys have not been receiving any kind of emails about Actively Black, again, I would encourage you to look up their website. Again, it is called Actively Black. Very, very great products. They do bags. They do, and this is genuine stuff, right? This is very great upgrade, upscale stuff. It's just not. It's nothing that somebody just thought of overnight and decided to put out. It's well thought out. It's great material. It's great design, and I love what they represent. Right now, they're talking about um, their slogan is "There's greatness in our DNA," and they put out some Black Panther wear. They put out some. Again, it's a bunch of athleisure wear, and one of the things that they recently introduced into their product line is some shoes. Very well competitively priced. The cheapest shoe is about maybe $100 or something like that, and the highest end is like 130. So I would encourage everybody just listening to this program to look up Actively Black and go out and start to support them. That is part of what my channel is about. Um, Giving Black perspectives, giving Black news, and helping to make sure that we begin to support each other in the best way that we can. All right. So, with that being said, again, I'm talking to Corey Gumbs, the founder of the Black Podcasters Association. And one of the things that caught my attention with Corey and the Black Podcasters Association, like if you go onto their page and read the mission statement, um, basically what they're saying is that they want to support and create spaces for Black podcast professionals that are committed to redefining the podcasting landscape. And these are some of the questions that we're going to be asking Corey and finding out more about the Black Podcasters Association, plus his affiliation with the Afros and Audios, right? So we're definitely going to be talking about that. But before we get into those questions, Mr. Corey, I gave the people a little bit of backdrop about yourself. Tell the folks or the listening audience just a little bit more, and then we'll get into our conversation.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me here. This has been a while coming. I know we've talked about uh, collaborating and me coming on the show to speak, so I really appreciate being here and thank you for the invitation. Um, you know how I am, man. I don't really talk well about myself, so I don't know exactly like you want my background or just how I got into the space, or what do what would you like me
Yeah,
to
we're
talk
gonna be
about?
talking about that. We're definitely gonna be talking about that. I mean, right now you reside in New York.
Yeah, I'm
Born
born
and
and
born and
raised.
raised New York. Yeah, born and raised. Was Bronx, Bronx area? What are we talking about as
Nah,
far as New York?
Southside Jamaica, Queens. Queens get the
Southside
money.
Jamaica, Queens. All right, there we go.
You know,
There we go.
the place where stars are born.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it's also interesting. One of the things that you and I kind of connected on was the fact that you have a background in audio engineering, and you actually worked with some notable people and things like that. So yeah, you got that. Yeah, you got the fact that Corey is also skilled in web development. Correct.
Yep.
Gotcha. So web development, also audio engineer, and like I say, when you really dive into what Corey has accomplished over the last 2 years or so.
Technically, yeah, 2 years. Going
Yeah,
on,
it's like
yeah, it's about 2.5 years.
yeah, like 2 years or so with the
Yeah.
Black Podcasters Association, and how he's been able to kind of get the word out and tell people exactly what's going on. It's really incredible what he's been able to accomplish over the last 2 years, and where the Black Podcasters Association is literally going. So, Corey, first question for you: why the Black Podcasters Association?
Woo, that's a good question. That's a great question. It's a I guess it's a multifaceted answer. But I started during the pandemic. Was just, like a lot of everybody else during that time period was in various different Facebook groups, was, trying to learn more about podcasting, the art of creating a podcast, so forth and so on. And I was just noticing, as the pandemic was going on and more people were jumping into podcasting, the conversations that were going on in these Facebook groups, because I was in a lot of them. I didn't even know there was so many. Um, were just becoming very I don't know. I don't know what the word is, but it was just, like, you had your opportunists that were jumping in trying to take advantage of this new wave and trying to get as much money out of these people who didn't know what was going on
Yeah, it was a
in
lot
this
of that going
space.
on.
Especially during the pandemic where people were trying to figure out, they were listening to more podcasts. They wanted to start their own podcast. So you had the opportunists there, or the AKA gurus that were telling people, yo, just buy my program and I'll show you how to do it in 30 days, blah, blah, blah. But the other side was also the conversations I was seeing in regards to um, people of color. Um, we know that podcasting as an industry has been predominantly white male. Majority of listeners, majority of hosts are white male, college educated, upper echelon, and as far as salary goes. And I was just noticing more and more disconnect, especially as more and more black people were coming in. There was questions about resource. Oh, just go buy this mic, go buy that. And I'm looking at the price of this stuff, and I'm like, people are not, the people are losing their jobs during this pandemic. Money's, the economy's almost at a standstill, and nobody has 5 grand to go just dump into building this studio. And I think originally I was like, that's kind of overkill. You don't even need all of that.
Right.
And it's just, it's hard to explain what it is, but when you're a person of color, you can see, if you watch a conversation from the outside looking in, you can see some of those, I don't want to call them racist dynamics, but those racial disparities that enter the conversation as well. And I just felt like people were asking questions, they weren't getting clear answers, they weren't getting the information, or they were being misled down this path that really wasn't focused on the type of content that they wanted to create. So me being the type of person I am, I used to be on there giving people the smoke. Like, why would you tell somebody this? Like, the
Yeah, I
person asked you
remember
a
that.
question, I was going in. And I was like, well, you know what? We need to have our own place. And then I started finding more and more black groups for podcasters. And I didn't like what was going on in there either. It was a lot of spamming. It was a lot of it was a lot of bad information. A lot of these podcasts have very low standards in regards to the product that they wanted to release. So I was like, well, I could sit here like everybody else and be upset and complain, or I could start my own thing. And that's what I did. Um, I talked to a friend, was telling her some ideas I had, and she was like, well, why don't you start a Facebook group? And that's kind of how we got started. The idea of it actually was happening before the pandemic hit New York City. So kind of just like everything just kind of like aligned and just took off. But we launched in March of 2020. and then damn man, it's like right, it seems like such a long time ago. But March in 2020, we launched. Was started as a placeholder. What was just supposed to be a placeholder name was the Black Podcasting Group, and then people just jumped in, and we just started growing exponentially. And by the time September came, we had like 1,500 members. And for me, it was like, I had an idea. What I wanted it to be. What it is now is not how I first started with the idea I had, but it was really mainly just a place where Black podcasters can come and actually learn and talk with each other and help each other to build podcasts. So that's kind of how we got started.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And now, to a lot of people, 1,500 members may not sound like a lot, but that's actually a lot. Again, within a short time span of kind of doing the announcement and getting the information out to people because evidently there was a void that was being filled, and you saw that need. There was a need that needed to be present amongst a lot of us because again, you're right. There was a lot of us that started to do podcasting during the pandemic, especially during the pandemic, and most, I believe, were doing it. Well, I guess I can't say most, but a lot of people were doing it just to get a few dollars, right?
Hmm.
They wanted to lace their pocket really, really quickly. And to me, it felt like a lot of a scam and stuff like that. And I remember you telling me a story about a particular client of yours and how you really got them set up for, not necessarily a nominal fee, but a very comfortable fee, and how much they appreciated you for doing that. Because again, you could have been one of those that fleeced the hell out of people. Because I saw people, man, that was literally charging people like $7,000
Yeah, it was
for some.
ridiculous.
It was crazy for like a course, and then when you listen to the end product, you were like, "Huh? You charge
Yep.
7 grand for the end product to sound like that?" And it just really didn't make sense, right?
Right.
And a lot of us were jumping on board either to pay those exorbitant fees or to try to fleece people at the same time, by saying, okay, well, this individual, positioning themselves as being the go-to persons and not really delivering on their end, just giving them some kind of outline to say this, or saying you don't necessarily need this particular type of equipment, or you can just, do it however you want to do it. But you mentioned earlier in your explanation of the why of a Black Podcasters Association, and one of the things that kind of stood out, which you've always been a stickler about, was standards, right? So you definitely talk about standards, the audio quality standards, the visual representation, and a lot of those things. And basically, there's a love there, and you just want to see a lot of the people that have entered the Black Podcasters Association to elevate their game, quote unquote, so to speak. That way, we can really have that professional representation, especially among us as Black people. So I love the answer, and of course, I got a number of questions for you, brothers. So get yourself ready.
That's what I'm
Uh,
here for.
yes, sir. So I kind of mentioned earlier in the introduction that you are affiliated with, a number of associations, right, or people. One of which is you just made but I know not just made, but you've aligned yourself with Afros and Audios. What and who is Afros and Audios, and why was it necessary for you guys to come together?
Oh, that's a great question, bro. So Afros and Audio is, I'm just gonna say it. I'm in this space right now where we're doing things, and I love the product. So Afros and Audio is going into their 5th year. It's a podcasting festival that's dedicated to Black podcast creatives. Excuse me, dedicated to Black podcast creatives that are looking to learn and grow their podcast. Basically, it's curated by Talib Jasir, who started it back in 2018. And I remember I learned about them about a month after they had the festival, because they had the first one in Brooklyn, New York. And like many people, I was looking for more Black orientated podcasting, you know, um, events, festivals, conferences, and stuff. And they were really the only one doing it originally. So he was the first one, and every year, then the pandemic happens. Of course, they do their one and second, and then the pandemic happens, so they go virtually. And then this year, on in October, We They had their first in-person one, in Philadelphia, and I think that was a great experience, to be able to be physically there and finally meet everybody who for the past 2.5 years, 2 years, you've been interacting with. It was like a big party, and everybody had a great time. But they are important because there is nobody else really doing what Talib's vision is, which is creating a safe space where we can be ourselves, we can talk like ourselves. Um, we can meet people across the country from all over the world because we do have people who come from other places here, to Afros and Audio, to learn and to show the skills and the techniques and the philosophies and the things that they use to grow their businesses and grow their podcasts to get the success they have. So, Afros and Audio, it's a 2-day festival for Black podcast creatives and professionals. It's a great networking opportunity. It's a great place to come and showcase your services, get a vendor table if you have that kind of business, build your network and just learn. I learned so much, and just hearing everybody's story and them telling the stories as they're doing their presentations on how they got to this point of success was like it's like you're gonna walk away from it from with some new ideas and new approaches. So like one of the things I left out there was learning how to pull resources together. And there was so many conversations going on outside of the conference, like meaning during in between on our when we had dinner, and it was a really good experience. So, um, how we came into partnership with them, um, it's really just it was a great business move, and shout out to Talib because you know, um, he came to me and he's very big on the education part, like I am, like I was with the group on Facebook. It was really stressing education, improving, your knowledge, improving your skill sets. And it just made sense. We have a lot of alignment in regards to where we see Black creatives in this space, the direction we wanted to go to. And we're coming up on our first year anniversary of the official Black Podcasters Association community. But it was around this time last year, actually, Thanksgiving, late November, early December. Talib basically made an offer I couldn't refuse. You're gonna Me and my Godfather references, but it just excuse me, the value, it just made sense. Um, Afros and Audio wanted something that they could implement so that when people left the conference, which is always a problem with a lot of conferences, no matter what industry you go into, right? Everybody goes to a conference or a festival or something, they get hyped, they learn, they have this newfound inspiration and energy, and then it starts to dissipate as weeks go by and goes flat because you don't have anything there to support you or to keep you going or encourage you to keep going. So when Talib came to me, he was like looking, he was trying to start a community based around the Afros and Audio Festival. Um, and he didn't have that. So when he came to me, it was like, well, you have the community. You've been I've been watching you. You've been building this community. You've been really, very hands on, trying to build this thriving community of education and support and networking. And he felt like it was a good fit. And for me, I was like, okay, what's the next step for BPA on Facebook? At the time last year, around this time, remember Facebook had the blackout. Facebook was very limiting on what we can and couldn't do. And I was already investigating moving us towards more of a private organization versus just being a Facebook group. Uh, because my goal was to make this an organization with an industry organization versus just a community that somebody has on Facebook. And they had the network, they had the brand power, we had the community, and it was like we both have what each other needs, so it made perfect sense. And of course, like any business move, you got to negotiate and get all the paperwork together, and then December, end of December, what do? We announced it, and it just caught fire ever since. So, but that's how we came to. It's really about collaboration, and that's one of our as Daryl, it's all about collaboration. Success comes from collaboration. It comes from working together with people who are in alignment with you and then going in the same direction. So, it just like I said, it just made perfect sense for us to come together and utilize each other's resources and build this big brand of a collection for Black podcasters, so they can get the tools and the necessary resources they need to succeed in their goals.
Got you.
I know
No,
that was a
no,
long-winded answer.
that history was needed though. You know, I think foundationally that information was needed for those that would definitely be able to, listen to this podcast, this episode, and that way they can kind of build from there. Because again, we're definitely going to be talking about how you can get connected to the Black Podcasters Association and what the Black Podcasters Association offers, or just give you the information. And you can go onto the website itself and begin to, look through and comb through a lot of the benefits and again the resources, because I think it's something that's very well needed for a lot of us who are entering the creative space or been in the creative space and just want a tribe or community where we can, kind of share visions, resources, and things like that. Because there's a lot of us out there that are really doing some phenomenal work. So yeah, definitely thank you for that answer. Long winded or not, it doesn't make a difference. Again, like I said, foundation. I think that was really great, a really great answer to that question. Um, now, this may be a short answer to this next question. How successful would you say you've been in getting people to buy into the idea of a Black Podcasters Association?
Man, you come with the fire. This is that. I never really thought about that. How successful have I been? I will say I think I've been pretty successful. I think we've been pretty successful. Um, I well, we've been pretty successful, but we're not at the point where I can say this isn't a true success. Um, when we launched in of February of this year, I remember when we did the soft launch in January, and we were like trying to get as many people within the Afros and audio community as well as the Black podcasting group on Facebook. It was like, let's get as many people. When you have a group of over 2,000 members, you think you're going to capture the majority of it. So, I had this expectation of like, oh, if I could get like 30% of our Facebook membership to join, we'll be doing really good. And it really didn't turn out that way. We only had like 40, 50 people sign up. And the funny part was I knew those were going to be the people who signed up because those were the people who were really active in the group. And over the past year, um, I'm happy that it went that route because it allowed me to make mistakes and move slowly and really concentrate on how we're going to scale. So I think as far as from starting from that point to where we're at now, we're over 120 members in the group. Um, it has been a learning experience. It's been successful in that capacity, but I think one of the biggest takeaways I get from when people hear about us is like, I didn't know you guys existed. So that's where I don't want to say I'm successful because I need to answer that question. We need to answer that question. We need to solve that problem of awareness and letting more and more people know we are here. Now, as far as converting people and getting people to join, in all honesty, when you say you want to have a standard and you have core values and you want to raise the bar, that doesn't mean everybody's going to be able to come along for that ride. So I've also learned over this year not to gauge signups as a point of success. For me, it was more importantly is the culture of the group, what we're bringing, the value we're bringing to the members in the group, and letting the world know, letting the people out there who can recognize that value and what it means for them in deciding to join, making sure they understand that part.
Okay. I like that answer as well. Yeah, awareness definitely I think is something that, I mean, I struggle with that myself, even with my own podcast, because there's just not enough hours in the day, and of course, you try to do it
Right.
on top of working, which because I haven't done this. I would love to do something like this full time and get paid for it, but I'm not exactly there yet. So again, so awareness is one of the hugest thing, and having people, um, like you said, kind of help you, push that idea along is actually beneficial, which is one of the reasons why I want to have you on this show, and then to help push that awareness. So yes. I'm asking you some. I don't know if they're hard questions or whatever, but I'm
Nah,
definitely I want to get to the root of it, right? So,
you
um,
know what? It's nothing short of what I would expect from you, bro. We always have great conversations, and I like these kind of questions. And I think we need to have more questions like these when we're talking with business owners and stuff in our community, so that we can hear, make it more transparent and help other people who are listening to think on a look at things from a different perspective as well. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, here's another one for you. Um, so you started out as an audio engineer. We already kind of touched on that in the beginning anyway. You started out as an audio engineer in, of course, in New York, and you worked with some notable artists, right? How has that knowledge transferred over into the podcasting space? And are you still fighting the good fight about good audio for podcasters?
I'll answer the
Because
last
you know,
part
because
first.
you and I always have questions. We've had conversation about audio and how and the expectations of audio and how beneficial it would be coming out of the gate with a great sound. So I'm just asking you that question as an audio engineer and what your perspective is and things like that. So go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to answer the second part first. Because of the pandemic and just the how the pandemic ramped up all some of these technologies like Zoom and these other applications that do something similarly in like StreamYard and all these other Melon and all these other companies that are creating these products that are allowing people to create content. IG Live, the success of IG Live during the pandemic really drove that. Now we have reels and shorts and all these different types of things that are helping, to get content more and more out there. I think because the video component, and especially within the Black podcasting space with shows like what Nori has and some of those more visual shows that turn into podcasts, I think that kind of like warped things where people thought, "Oh, okay, I don't need great audio. I just need to get in front of a camera. I just need to just talk." Um, like we used to have conversations about audio versus content. And I always try to remind people that if you look at the data and the statistics, the audio component of a podcast it's still the number one way people consume it, the way that they listen to it. So you have to the audio, you can't skimp on your audio. Your audio is very important. Your ears are sensitive, they get fatigue, higher frequencies, lower frequencies, they can either they can speed up the hearing loss, they can speed up the fatigue and make it a very very um not so pleasurable experience. And there are people out here who have really, they have really good content, but because their audio, they don't take the investment to improve their audio, they're not growing, they're not keeping listeners, they're not getting listeners. That was one of the things in the group that I used to hate when we first started, with people like, well, as long as the content is good, I can listen to it. That's a lie. Your ears won't let you. Listening is a physical thing, and like everything else, it gets fatigued. Your ears won't let you.
Right.
So the audio component is always going to be a big part of it. I remember I was looking up stuff about movies, and there are people in the movie industry that says you have bad audio, you don't have a good movie. You don't have a good TV show. So even though we may say content, we may say video, no matter what, the audio is the delivery. So you got to make the effort. You got to make the even if you have a limited budget, there's things you can do. Make a sacrifice. Stop smoking your cigarettes. Don't go to Starbucks for a week. Save that money up. Get yourself a $100 mic. It's better than no mic. It's better than using your headphones or your ear pods. Just little things like that can help improve your show and keep your audience, because the show is not about you, it's about your audience. And you want to give them the best experience from whatever you can, for whatever resources you have. You got to give them the best experience you possibly can. That's what's going to keep them. That's what's going to attract them, and that's what's going to make them want to listen to what you have to say or whatever content you're putting out there. As far as my experience, I mean, my experiences in music. When you press a CD or you release a CD, it has to be up to a certain audio quality for it to get on the radio, for it to play. So the standards of these delivery systems force you to, if you really want to be as successful, they force you to raise your standard. So you got to make sure you get the best of the best. Um, the audio, working in the studio when I was younger, when I had my rap group, and you know, chasing the dream of trying to be an audio engineer and all that stuff. I mean, there's life lessons in those that you can always bring to whatever the endeavors you're doing now. So I just try to take everything I've been through with starting businesses and failing businesses, my music background, and bring it to the space, because there's a lot of wisdom in those mistakes and a lot of wisdom that I've picked up from people in those industries that I can see that we use on a day-to-day basis with building podcasts or distributing podcasts. So it's not just really the music part. I think it has a lot to do with my personal opinion about the audio stuff. But overall, I just try to bring everything and even other people's experiences that I watch and learn from. I try to bring into the space to help members in the group.
Yeah, yeah, and and that's the thing. Sometimes, an audio head can be somewhat biased based upon their experience and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think when you listen to the overall what am I trying to say? When you listen to people that have that experience and they're just trying to help, I think it's something that can be taken away if you really, kind of just kind of listen to that experience, right? It's no different than somebody that's actually been successful in certain areas. You want to sit at their feet and try to find out what they did to get to us, to a certain point, to where they are now, to where they're successful. So, not to sit back and try to beat a dead horse because we had this conversation over and over and over again. And a lot of people still are of the mindset that it's really about your content. But I've always said your audio should marry your content, or your content should marry your audio at the same time. It's a great union when you have that representation. Like, how would you feel if you did, like you mentioned, the movie? How would you feel if you did go to a movie and the visuals was perfect, right? The content, in terms of the visual, was perfect, but the audio quality was lacking. It would be very uncomfortable and it wouldn't translate well. And you may not want to go to that, another film from that director or though that production company or whatever the case may be. It gets kind of lackluster. So you got to find that medium to say, well, even if you don't know necessarily how to produce it, the audio quality that is on a high level, you still have to find that medium where you know you have the great content and it's still audible, where people can be pleased, and your audience can be pleased by just listening to the content. Because you're right, it's still audio in the audio format mainly, not so much visual. But that's why I asked you that question.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to add two things too, like well, three. Like a lot of people listen to podcasts when they're doing other things, right? We have driving their car, doing housework, working on, doing work for their job, exercising. That's where a lot of people still listen to podcasts. And so you got to make sure, one, that you have good audio. Perfect example, I live in New York City. If you live in this place like New York City, or a place like where they have a subway, if you want to see how bad your audio is, go listen to your podcast while the train is coming into the station. Because if you have headphones on and you're struggling to listen to your podcast while that train is coming in, with all the noise that it's bringing, that tells you you need to work on it. Because I should what I'm listening to directly in my ear should not be fighting with what's going on around in my environment. So that's also important, and that's why I say it's about the experience that you give your audience. Because if they have to fight, it's the podcasting space is competitive because people are always looking for things to consume. And if you don't give them a product that they can enjoy while they're consuming it, they're going to leave you and move on to somebody else. And they're going to keep going until they find that one thing that's a whole listening experience that they really truly enjoy. So you can't think that your content alone. I remember when you said that in a group about the marriage, and I was like, you know, that was when I remember how you presented it. I was like, you know what? He's so right. It isn't just one or the other. It's really the marriage and the balance between the two that really creates a successful podcast. So, so it is important for you to you can't, you're building a product. That's what a podcast is, a product for people to consume. So you can't, you can't skimp on one part of the product and expect the product to be for people to imagine if the cereal company forgot to add the sweetener, or or you go buy a car and they put three wheels on instead of four. You could probably still drive the
Right,
car on three
right.
wheels, but what's the experience going to be? It's
It'd
going
be
to
a
be
hell of an
terrible.
experience, I'm telling you.
Yeah, so you can't, you gotta look at it that way. And I think, we talked about this. I think one of the biggest issues for a lot of black podcasters, or just podcasters in general, mainly black, I'm gonna talk about black podcasters, is that the audio component is probably one of the most expensive parts of your production. Whether you decide to go to a studio and do it, or you decide to make the investment into your own equipment, that's probably the most expensive part of this process. And I think a lot of people shy away from that. And then, like, when we did our panel last year, at Afros and Audio, it's also just the technical side of it can be very intimidating for a lot of people. So you mix in the pricing, the intimidation of learning how to use the equipment, and it's like, nah, well, I'll just take my phone and I'll just do it on my phone and put it out there. Then the ego kicks in, and then the creative
Right.
side, the creative ego kicks in. Well, if people don't like my what I'm putting out there, then it's not for them. And it's like, then you're in the Facebook group talking about, why is my podcast
Haters.
not growing after
Yeah.
6 months later after you started. So I mean, a lot of these are hard truths a lot of people don't want to hear. But if you want to be successful, and that's why the standard part comes in, because if you're serious about this, then you have to have a level of standard that you want to have for yourself and your product that you put out. It's a representation of you. And if you're putting out something subpar, what do you think the world is going to look at? How are they going to view you and how you do things? So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
soapbox.
And there's the real Corey Gumbs, y'all. So listen, when you're getting passionate about talking about audio and standards in the podcasting space, you getting the passion comes right out, right? But yeah, man. So let's kind of explore that real quick. I got a couple of more questions for you, and then we'll talk about some other things. But let's explore. Let's kind of pick up where you just left off. Um, so for the Black Podcasters Association membership, right?
Mhm.
Um, that's some of the things that I believe you get when you become a member of the Black Podcasters Association. So you have tools, resources, people that have experiences that can kind of help you along the way. So kind of speak to some of the benefits, if you would, if you don't mind that, as one becomes a member of the Black Podcasters Association.
Well, I would try to flip it on you because you're a member as well, but I'll answer your question. There's been something I've learned in this process. This has been a huge learning process for me. And when you go look on our website, like you do any place, they're going to tell you all the product. When you look at a product's packaging, they're going to tell you all the key points that they want to attract you. But the part that I've learned that is really the biggest perk, the really biggest benefit of the community, and it's something I've learned, that I can now call member-driven content, and I'm telling you this, member-driven content. So when you go out here creating your content, you need to think about your listeners, listener-driven content, member-driven content. It's all the same principle. Um, the one of the biggest perks you get in here is the community. I have seen One, I have learned so much from all the members in the group, and I've seen it happen to other members in the group. People have connected with each other. I've seen friendships grow out of this. I've seen collaborations grow. And these are the perks you can't put onto a sales pitch. You have to be there and experience it. Afros and Audio happened. We had a bunch of members come in from all over the country, and it was like I always say it was like a family reunion. It was more, these are the first time people are actually meeting each other physically, and there's no awkwardness. It's like, hey, and it's hugs, and it's, oh my gosh, let's go hang out. What we doing? All of that. And I think when people saw us doing it, it was resonating across all those people who weren't members. So that's one of the biggest perks. But for me, what my mission with this is education. And so, how do you bring the education to the community? Well, we do courses, we do workshops. I curate and vet most of the people who come in, or who come in to do our workshops. Whether I'm out in the streets of Queens, or I'm at an event somewhere, a networking event, or I'm watching a YouTube video, or I'm on LinkedIn, or I'm on these different platforms. I'm watching and listening to everybody, and I always look for people who take an out of the box approach, or I'm watching the conversations going on in the community. When somebody's asking certain types of questions, I'll say to myself this, and I'll read the conversations and be like, you know what? I think we need to bring a professional who's in this space in here to help us answer these questions, and to do a workshop and a presentation or a course on helping people, and giving them the space where they can do a Q&A and ask directly. Now, originally, when we did that, it was for the members of the group only, but we had so many great professionals coming in. I was like, the world needs to know about these people. So we had a trademark attorney come in. It was a great session. People got to ask questions. She educated us. And I was like, it would be selfish of us to keep that to ourselves when there's people out here where you don't need to be a member of the BPA, but you could take advantage of that and learn what you need to learn to protect yourself. So the education is a big part. Um, Working on some other things. I'm now rolling out some things where as a perk of your membership, we're going to start trying to bring in more income producing opportunities for members through like advertising, sponsorships, our own podcast network that members can be a part of. Uh, the networking component again. We have job boards. We have specific community sub communities within our community for like with podcasters live that helps you learn how to do streaming. We have the VP Club that we just launched this past week. They're an online recording studio that does like a full service. They'll help you manage your podcast, record it. They do all the legwork. They're now part of our ecosystem. So we're out here working hard to create a bigger ecosystem because my goal for members is you shouldn't have to go anywhere else. I don't want you to go anywhere else. And we're working on bringing more professionals in the space. So if you need an engineer, you can hire them. If you need a marketer, you can hire them. And you've already vetted this person because they're a member, that you know that they're up to a certain standard, and you've already engaged with them, whether in the group or on a personal level outside of the group, that you guys kind of have a rapport. So but that's really the main perks. And there's other things like we're working on getting discounts and we're performing partnerships with companies and services so that we can bring more value. Because one of the things I want to help people do is save money as well. It's all about being efficient and creating a process that allows you to take away those things that are interfering with your creativity and allow you to be more creative by us providing supports and services that'll take those like producing and recording and editing and stuff. Nobody, unless you really love editing, nobody wants to edit. Most of us edit because we have to and because we can't afford or we don't know where else to go for it.
Right, right, right. Yes, sir. But see, you said you was gonna put that back on me. I couldn't have answered it any better, brother.
Well,
So,
well, so
but I know what you mean, though. I know exactly what you was talking about.
right. So like at Afros and Audio, people were asking me, well, so what's the Black Podcasters Association? And all I was doing was pulling people to the side from, pulling people out the crowd, like, yo, come here for a second. You talk to this person. Because if you're interested in learning about the Black Podcasters Association, who could sell it better than an actual member who's been a part of it?
That's
And they can
correct.
tell you what they're getting from it. Now, everybody gets different things from it. We have some people who are active daily. We have some people who show up because I get all the information. They'll log in every day, but they're not engaging. Everybody gets what they need to get out of this space to help them do what they need to do. But there's nobody who can tell you better what this community means to them or what it is than a person who's an actual member of it. So that's why I try to be like, yo, speak to this member, speak to that one. Me, I'm the founder. I'm going to sell it all day long. And I don't want to sell it. I want you to come here because you see the value and you understand that what this value is going to bring you in your journey towards success for your podcast.
And there you have it. Um, we're almost at that time. We're gonna wrap it up. I totally thank you for doing this interview and providing all the expertise and the answers that you provided. Because I think a lot of the listeners, once they actually sit back and listen to this episode, they're really going to be intrigued about what it is that the Black Podcasters Association has to offer. They're definitely going to be intrigued about afros and audios. And so that brings me to the question of, well, actually two questions. Kind of what's next for Corey Gumbs and BPA or Black Podcasters Association, and where can people find you?
Okay. So what's next for the BPA? Myself, I'm the type of person when I start a project, it's either go big or go home, right? Like I start to think about it on a global scale. Um, One of the my personal initiatives for 2023 is to one, like I said earlier, we have to. It's not even a matter of want. We have to increase brand awareness of who we are, what we're trying to accomplish in this industry. I want us to be the premier organization for Black creatives and Black professionals within the podcast space for the industry. We don't have an organization that represents us or advocates for us in particular space. And I want the BPA to be that. And as more markets are starting to open, like in the African markets, um, the Caribbean markets, the South American and Latin markets where we have Afro Latinos, you know, I want us to be those people. We have brothers and sisters in Canada. They came down to Afros and Audio and learned about us. I want us to be that organization. So next year, my plan is to really increase awareness of the organization, as well as, increase the membership. And the plan is we're going to be doing some tours throughout the country, in association with Afros and Audio. We're working on those details now. Me being more creating more collaborative partnerships with other organizations. Like, we work close with She Podcast, which is a organization, a community for women in the podcasting space. We also work closely with what Women of Color podcast that deals with women of color. Um, BIPOC creators Facebook group. We work close with them. We're out here doing these things, building partnerships and collaborations, because that's how we get our people where we need to get and get the resources. Um, so you're going to see a lot more content coming out of the BPA. We plan on launching a network. We're going to also be doing more active meetups. Um, Hopefully we can start setting up chapters in different cities across the country. So if you're interested and that's something you might want to be a part of, please become a member. But the overall, the real goal is to grow the community and get more people aware of what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish over the next couple of years, as far as becoming an advocacy group and a professional body that actually certifies our members and lets the industry know, because the industry likes to say how there's a diversity issue and they don't know where to find us. Well, now you know where to find us. Now you know where to find the talent and the and the experts and the knowledge of people who identify as Black um in this space. Where you can find us. Well, one, I would advise you to sign up for our newsletter, the official newsletter at blackpodnews.com. That's BLK news.com. It's a very special curated newsletter that's going to be that's curated by us, that highlights Black creatives in this space, news that's going to that will help podcasters, or even if you want to learn more, um, you can go to that. We're going to have more contributors from the industry adding articles on their fields of expertise. But you can also find us on all social media platforms. We're on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. You can follow our page on Facebook, TikTok, and on LinkedIn. All you got to do is really, because everybody has different requirements as far as the name goes. I would just tell you, go to those platforms, just search the Black Podcasters Association, and we're going to come right up. You might even come up before you even finish writing it. But just look for us on those platforms, Black Podcast. Oh, and we're on Twitter as well. So you can check us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and definitely check out our YouTube page too, because we have some great panel discussions. We've had some great content. You can learn about other Black podcasters. We had a show where we will highlight Black podcasters and tell their stories, and you can learn more about the content that's out there.
Perfect. That was one of the things I was just about to ask you, which was where can you be found, and you already expressed that, so I definitely appreciate that. So yeah, we're basically at the end of the show. And is there anything additional that you want the listening audience to know? And I mean, because you basically given up a lot of info, but is there anything additional that you like the listening audience to know?
Yeah, support these Black creatives out here. These people work really hard behind the scenes, and some may not be as consistent as you want them to be, but they're normal people with normal lives, and they're doing this. A lot of them are doing this out of the kindness of their hearts, out of them wanting to get their messages across and help other people. So support Black creatives. Go out there. We're trying to build more and more resources out there for people to discover Black creatives, but support them. Go out there and if you're looking to start a podcast, you know, that's the one thing about the BPA. We have people of all levels. So if you want to start, you can come to us. If you're already in the game and you want to learn to get better, you can come to us. We have a ton of award-winning podcasters in our community, which I'm very proud of, because these people put in work and they're out here getting the recognition they deserve. But they don't listen to the media. There are plenty of Black podcast creators out there that are doing their thing, and we're working very diligently behind the scenes to try to help people whether you're going Podchaser or Twitter or whatever, hit us up, man. I basically run on social media. So if you hit me on social media, you're speaking to me, not a robot or something. So if I can't point you in the right direction, we'll find an answer for you. But support Black creatives. And when I say support them, it's more than just you liking their page, their posts, and listening to their podcast. Donate, buy a product. Don't you be surprised that money that they make helps them go get a microphone, helps them hire a producer to increase the production value. That's what they're trying to do. They're not, a lot of these creatives are not doing that just to put money in their pocket. They're trying to figure out ways to invest back into their podcast. So if you support them in that capacity, whether it's $5, $10, or 20, or whatever amount you want to give them, trust me, they will be that they will love that kind of support from you.
Yes,
So
sir.
that
Absolutely.
I could talk about that all day.
All day,
But
man. I do listen, that's a whole nother conversation I know
yeah.
Corey is definitely passionate about. So listen, man, this has definitely been a joy. It's been a pleasure. First time having you on the show and having that dialogue. I think for the most part, when me and you kind of dialogue and talk, it seems very authentic, it's very natural. And I learn a lot from you. And I just thank you so much, man, for opening up the different spaces that you have opened up and providing the information that you have provided. I know for me, like I say, we kind of conversate or communicate behind the scenes. And one of the things I'm definitely going to do this year, like I told you, I'm setting it up where you're going to see a lot more episodes from me and a lot of other things from me as well going into the new year. So I'm looking to do like an end of the year review of my different or the best episodes that I've actually had on my podcast, and then jumping right into the new year, man, and just try to knock it out as much as possible. And one of the things I definitely want to do is begin to promote a lot of those um, quote unquote unknown black creatives and black businesses that are out there that a lot of us should be, when you think about it, especially what's going on in today's climate, we should be actively supporting in the best manner that we possibly can, which is one of the reasons I brought up Actively Black. Actively Black is really a luxury brand when you sit back and you think about it. And to me, they're competing in a space with a lot of the top tier products that are out there right now. When you sit back and you look up their products, right? It's nothing like off the street or anything like that. They really put some thought into it, and that's the same thing that all of us should be doing as far as trying to support brands like that or people that have put themselves in a space where they can represent standards and quality, like you said, Corey. So definitely appreciate it. Um, you guys, the listening audience, I want to thank you in advance for listening to this episode. Follow our guest on their social media platforms, which Corey has already mentioned earlier. Become a follower, subscribe, leave comments. Try to be as engaging as possible to help grow the Black Podcasters Association and become a member. He's already probably broke down and gave you some detail on how you can actually become a member, subscribe to that organization and that association, especially for those that really want to get their story out and just need maybe a little push or help being guided in the right direction as far as like resources, tools, how to start things like that. It can definitely help you out. But this has definitely been a joy. And I want to thank you once again, Corey, for coming on and providing such great content and great information. Also, now for me, if you are a business owner and you are looking to, and this is going to start at the beginning of the year, if you're looking to, advertise, you want people to come on board and, kind of, um, you know, shop with you or just whatever the case may be, I will be open for, those business owners to contact me and we can kind of work out something where I can definitely start, promoting your businesses. All right. But yeah, so this has been the All Things Black podcast. I've been your host, Mr. Blackovation. Yeah. You want to say something?
Yeah, sorry, man. I just wanted to add something too. Look, man, the brain starts racing. I don't mean to interrupt your ending, but if you're a black business out there, you need to start investigating utilizing black podcast creatives to help you get your brand off the ground through advertising or sponsoring. And if you have any questions about that, reach out to me. We have a whole community that we can including this show, utilize this brand. You'd be surprised how engaged Black listeners are to these podcasts. They're willing to support you. So create a, add podcasting to your marketing plan. And if you want to learn more information, talk to Daryl or talk to myself, man. We pretty much have an idea of how this works. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm sorry, man. You started talking
No,
about
no,
sponsors,
no,
businesses, and I was
no,
like,
no. Trust me. I mean, that's actually that's it's needed. And again, I would say for anybody that is looking to do that, any business that is looking to do that, definitely either become a member of the Black Podcasters Association or find somebody that is associated with the Black Podcasters Association. That way, you can really um, trust me, the benefits will be there in order for us to be able to help you grow your business and things like that. Because whether you know it or not, podcasting is a landscape that is growing exponentially, and at the same time, a lot of businesses are looking to throw dollars at podcasters. So, as a Black business owner, I think it would be incumbent upon you to go ahead and get a start on that, and support your own the same way we want to support you in helping you grow your business. But yeah, this has been a great episode. This has been the Black All Things Black podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Blackovation, and we are out.